And welcome back to Capitol Review. This week, President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was convicted on 3 felony counts for illegally possessing a gun and lying about his drug use on a federal background check. This came just over a week after former President Donald Trump was convicted on falsification of business records. And joining us once again to break it all down is our courts and legal reporter for The Hill, Zach Schonfeld. Zach, welcome back.
Good to be with you.
Let's get right to it. Zach, can you quickly give us a recap of the 2 cases and how the 2 have, reacted to the verdicts?
Absolutely. So we'll start with Hunter Biden's case, the one that just came down this week. Hunter Biden faced 3 and was convicted on all 3 different felony gun charges. 2 of these counts related to a background check form that he filled out back when he purchased a revolver at a Delaware gun store in 2018. Among the questions on that form are a question about whether you are a user of an illicit drugs, and he said that he was not at the time. But of course, as we know, at that time he was addicted to crack cocaine. So the jury finding him guilty of lying on that form and then actually unlawfully possessing the gun after he purchased it and held on to it for 11 days before it was disposed. So conviction on all 3 counts there. And then, of course, this follows just about 2 weeks after former President Trump's verdict, where he was convicted on counts of falsifying business records for criminally covering up a hush money payment during his 2016 campaign.
Zach, is there any overlap or similarities between these 2 cases other than we're talking about 2 high-profile cases, the son of a president and the former president of the United States?
Yeah, certainly. I think their most striking similarity is just how unprecedented these cases are, right? The first criminal guilty verdict against a former president, and then the first, just days later, the first guilty criminal verdict against the son of a sitting president. Both of those have never happened before. So that's certainly the most striking similarity. I think in terms of the contents of these cases, there's not too much similar other than, we're not talking about any crimes of violence here. Both of them are first-time offenders. So I actually think both of them are probably in a similar boat when it comes to sentencing, where neither of them might face any jail time for these verdicts. But as it comes to the actual allegations contained within these cases, certainly quite a different story.
Zach, how are voters reacting to these verdicts? Do they cancel each other out, and should they?
Hunter Biden's verdict only coming in just a few days ago. I think we're still waiting to see how any polling shakes out in terms of how that affects President Biden's status. But I think in terms of what we've seen in the weeks, in the 2 weeks or 2, about almost 3 now weeks since former President Trump's verdict, I think we've seen that he still remains in many polls still having a lead over President Biden in key swing states. This is something we've seen from Trump's campaign. They have argued all along that if anything, these cases just make him stronger. They point to the bumps he had when he was first charged in this hush money case last year. So still, I think the dust is still settling a little bit, but it'll certainly be interesting as we get to the first presidential debate now just a few weeks away.
What comes next in both cases?
Yeah, the step in both cases now is sentencing. We have a sentencing date for Donald Trump. He will be sentenced in New York on July 11th. So that seems to probably will come along before Hunter Biden's sentencing. For Hunter Biden's case, we do not yet have a sentencing date. Traditionally, it will be held a few months after the verdict. So I think the question becomes, there could be a sentencing date that gets quite close to November's election, but the judge deferred a decision on scheduling that sentencing. So in the meantime, we'll see if either party files any post-trial motions. And also, we're expecting to see from both sides in each case, each side will get to make the request to the judges of what sentence each defendant should make. So that's a process that'll play out over the coming weeks and the next few months.
All right, Zach, thank you very much for your time. We're going to hear from you in just a few minutes.